seeking to block lawmakers from meeting today to vote on the next stage of the budget process. The EFF, in a letter to National Assembly Speaker Thoko Didiza, stated that yesterday's proceedings at a key parliamentary committee which supported the fiscal framework, despite reservations about some budget revenue-generating measures, were procedurally flawed and vulnerable to legal challenge. The opposition party asked for the committee's reports supporting the fiscal framework to be withdrawn and for today's sitting of Parliament to consider and vote on the report to be rescheduled. In a diplomatic matter, Mauritius and Britain are finalizing a deal to transfer sovereignty over to Chagos Island, a disputed UK territory that is home to a major US military base. The government signaled that President Donald Trump's administration, which was consulted on the deal, has given its approval and no further action is needed from the US. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer's spokesperson Tom Wells said Britain is working with the Mauritian government to finalize and sign the treaty, noting that once signed, it will be laid before both houses of Parliament for scrutiny and for ratification. Britain and Mauritius have been negotiating a deal for the UK to hand over the Indian Ocean archipelago, which is home to a strategically important naval and bomber base on the largest of the island, Diego Garcia. Says the Common Group fire Trump set to unveil new tariffs today amid global trade war fears. To stay with us.
You can listen to Adami Mogo 93.1 FM from any part of the world. Download the Adami Mogo 931 FM app from Google Play Store and Radio Garden. And follow us on Adami Mogo 93.1 FM on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you have eyewitness stories, clips exclusive to share, contact the Adami Mogo FM newsroom via mail at newsroom@adamimogofm.com. Or you can dial 070-634-03583. You can dial 090-319-69629. Adami Mogo 93.1 FM Lagos, voice of the light.
Glad you're still there now to the rest of the news. Now in the United States, the White House has confirmed that President Donald Trump will impose new tariffs today, though it provided no details about the size and scope of trade barriers that have businesses, consumers, and investors fretting about the intensifying global trade war. Trump has for weeks pegged April 2nd as a liberation day to impose an array of new tariffs that could upend the global trade system.
Of 25% on Mexico and Canada.
We're talking about a tariff of 10% on China. The European Union is very, very bad to us.
We have Liberation Day, as you know, on April 2nd. Many countries have taken advantage of us, the likes of which nobody even thought was possible for many, many decades, And, that has to stop. Of 25% on Mexico and Canada.
White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt said reciprocal tariffs on countries that impose duties on U.S. goods would take effect immediately after Trump announces them, while a 25% tariff on auto imports will take effect from tomorrow.
Mexico.
The president said last night he has made a decision and a determination. I was with him in the Oval Office earlier, and he is going to announce that decision tomorrow. I don't want to get ahead of the president. This is obviously a very big day. He's with his trade and tariff team right now, perfecting it to make sure this is a perfect deal for the American people and the American worker, and you will all find out in about 24 hours from now. They're not going to be wrong. It is going to work. And the president has a brilliant team of advisors who have been studying these issues for decades. And we are focused on restoring the golden age of America and making America a manufacturing superpower. The president.
Trump has already imposed tariff on aluminum, steel, and autos, along with increased duties on all goods from China that have rattled markets. In the meantime, United States President Donald Trump has received a mixed scorecard in state elections that were widely viewed as an early test on his administration's popularity. Republican State Senator Randy Fine defeated Democrat Josh Whale in a closely watched special Florida congressional election to fill the seat held by National Security Advisor Michael Waltz. The result dashes Democratic hopes of pulling what would have been a stunning upset in a district that Donald Trump carried by 30 points in last November's presidential election. Trump suffered a setback in Wisconsin after a Democrat-backed judge was elected to the Wisconsin Supreme Court, despite his cut-costing Sir Elon Musk pouring more than $21 million into the campaign of her conservative opponent. In a new development, Ukraine will hold in-depth talks on Friday with a small group of foreign countries about contributing forces to a contingent that would act as a security guarantee for Ukraine. Speaking at a news conference in Germany, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said he is waiting more concrete answers from Kyiv's allies regarding their readiness to participate in such a force. Zelensky added that the meeting will involve military teams from several countries, stressing that the contingent will include land, air, and naval component. U.S. has hoped to reach a full ceasefire followed by lasting peace settlement, but an agreement appears distant, despite Trump's promises to bring the conflict to a quick end. And in the Middle East, Israel has announced a major expansion of military operations in Gaza, noting that large areas of the enclave would be seized and added to its security zones. Israeli leaders have been encouraged by signs of protests in Gaza against Hamas, the militant group that has controlled the enclave since 2007. Defense Minister Israel Katz, in a statement, said the evacuation would take place from areas where there is fighting, while urging Gazans to eliminate Hamas and return Israeli hostages as the only way to end the war. Israeli military had already issued evacuation warnings to Gazans living around the southern city of Rafah and towards the city of Khan Yunis, telling them to move to the Al-Mawasi area of the shore, previously designated a humanitarian zone. And now moving to East Asia, where South Korea's interim leader Han Duck-soo has called on the nation to calmly accept the decision from the Constitutional Court on the impeachment of President Yoon Suk-yeol, as police ramped up security around the court ahead of the ruling on Friday. Speaking at a ministerial meeting on safety ahead of the historic ruling, Duck-soo urged the politicians not to make any comment that could incite violence, noting that the government will not tolerate any illegal or violent acts. The Constitutional Court, which is reviewing Yoon's impeachment over the shock martial law order, said it will announce its decision on whether to remove him from office permanently or reinstate him on Friday, April 4th. Recall Yoon was impeached by Parliament on December 14, 2024, after being accused of violating his constitutional duty by declaring martial law in early December with no justifiable grounds. And now in the latest development, Denmark's Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen is set to visit semi-autonomous Greenland today for talks with the territory's incoming government, following repeated expressions of interest by U.S. President Donald Trump in controlling the Arctic island. Frederiksen begins her 3-day trip less than a week after a visit to the territory by U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance received a frosty reception from authorities in Denmark and Greenland. Trump's interest in controlling Greenland, part of a growing international focus on competition for influence in the Arctic, has prompted Denmark to hasten work to improve ties with the island. Earlier, Greenland's incoming Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen, who won last month's general election, stated that Greenland will never be part of the United States, noting that they will continue to build their relationship and partnership until the day Greenland becomes a sovereign nation.
We want a strong partnership. We want to trade. We want a strong partnership on national security, of course, but we want it in mutual respect. We will never be for sale, and we will never be Americans. A respectful relationship, I think that's the most important. Talking about annexation and talking about acquiring Greenland and not respect sovereignty is not respectful.
Greenland's incoming Prime Minister Jean Frederick Nelson is speaking there. And now turning to sports, British tennis player Fran Jones has been forced to withdraw from the Constantinus Cup in Bogota after collapsing on court. In a video posted on social media, the 24-year-old appeared to stagger after failing to return a serve from Argentina's Julia Herrera in the third set of the round of 32 match and was unable to return to play. She fell to the ground and was removed from the court in a wheelchair. In a post on X, the organizer of the Constantinus Cup said Jones has withdrawn from her match against Julia Herrera at 6-2, 5-7, 5-3 in favor of the Argentinian due to a physical issue. Before bringing Globe File to an end, here is a recap of the biggest stories. President Bola Tinubu has sacked the board of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company, including its group chief executive officer, Lekki, and board chairman, Pius Akinyelure. South African opposition party, the Economic Freedom Fighters, have written to the Speaker of Parliament, seeking to block lawmakers from meeting today to vote on the next stage of the budget process. We also told you that the White House has confirmed that President Donald Trump will impose new tariff today, though it provided no details about the size and scope of trade barriers that have businesses, consumers and investors fretting about an intensifying global trade war. And that's Globe File, as produced by Olushola Morris. Join us at 2 o'clock for more stories on the briefing on Dami Mogo 93.1 FM Lagos. I am Ogboi Mark. Good afternoon.